Magpies always get a bad press. My dad hated him. Couldn't stand him. Now I know why. I tend to think of them as thieves, looking out for anything that sparkles or shines. I think of their bullish nature as they prey on the defenceless chicks, consuming the unhatched eggs of the vulnerable. On the milk, Dad would always remind me, "Watch out for those pesky magpies. Lie the bottles belly down so they can't peck through the lid." Some people were lucky enough to have their own plastic covers, but not everyone. So we'd go back to the belly down, just for those who we knew were under the watchful eye in the sky. My dad was more of a songbird, a robin. Never kept still, always something to do, something to see, somewhere to be, always singing. He worked hard all his life, a milkman to 65 until he retired and became a gardener. He loved people, a chap, going to get his daily paper, collecting from his customers, eager for a chinwag, grabbing a pie from the local cake shop, seeing his kids, grandkids especially. He had no desire for shiny things, to uproot or hurt anyone else. A true robin. At the beginning of all this, we listened, we observed and watched from afar, never really grasping the reality of what was going on. Too far away in the sky to reach us. But one magpie did. And it brought more. And more. Until we stopped. And we realised we were surrounded. And so it began. Peck. 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 We battened down the hatches, huddled in our nest, protected our young, looked out for the old until we slowly found the confidence and we stepped out again, unaware we were still being watched. My dad couldn't abide being preyed on. This robin was as strong as an ox. Carried on with his gardens, made the most of the fresh air, didn't interfere or bother others, kept himself to himself, fluttering around in his usual way, safe at a distance from those pesky magpies. I remember when we were told we all had to leave our nests. "I'm worried about you both. About Mum. And you, Dad." He gave his usual response. "I'll be all right, cock. Don't be worrying about me." Then we heard a squawk. Mum wasn't feeling great. The day after, neither were you. We started again. Batten down the hatches, huddle in your nest. We knew it was likely, but we didn't want to admit it. We were being preyed on. Peck. 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 Your wings weakened. Mum asked for help, but you puffed your proud chest out and didn't show us exactly how much was going on inside. Peck. 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 Another magpie on the hunt. Mum called out again. Uncertain, unsure what was happening, flapping her wings until another songbird came to your aid. They flew in, took you under their wing, knowing full well how much hurt you were truly feeling. They surrounded you with other songbirds. They toed and froed, you ate from their beaks as they nourished and replenished what the magpies had taken. Then the second blow came. You thought Mum was still tucked away safely in her nest. But now she too had to be taken under her wing. We took comfort knowing you were both now surrounded by an army of songbirds. Mum's wings slowly strengthened, and as they did, we heard your spirit lift. With every gasp of breath, we felt the weight of your wings lighten and enable you to fly, until we had you both home, back in your nest together. We smiled. You held each other tight. I even took a picture to mark the occasion. You were both where you should be, and we were warm with contentment that the songbirds had won. You were safe. What nobody told us at the time was that whilst the army of songbirds were working away, flying to and fro, feeding, watering, rescuing, they were still being led, ordered by those bastard magpies. The ones that told him it was time Dad left. There were no more worms for him. They wanted him out, back in his own nest, fending for himself, and we had no reason to doubt them because that's where we wanted him as well. Back in his nest. He lasted one day, until another magpie came, quietly pecking away. This magpie was cunning, deceived us all. I nestled you under my wing. We pleaded for help. They tended to your wounds and said you're okay to fly. We felt reassured, relieved, and so we let you fly. But the magpies were still watching, waiting, ordering the songbirds to do as they were told, as the magpies continued whispering, "Peck, peck, peck." Magpies get priority. Always first in the pecking order. Dad was just another tired old robin to them. That's what makes it so hard. Because you weren't tired, or weak, or defenceless. Every robin is unique. You were the robin that was meant to fly to escape their clutches and had done all your life. Peck. 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 You let out another final squawk and those dutiful songbirds returned to your aid. They flew back and forth, their wings tiring every time. The magpies ordered them to stop. Wait. Assess the situation. Your worth as a robin. You were flown in at such speed and called to an abrupt halt. 12 hours to be precise. And then you were reacquainted with your old songbirds from your first visit. They surrounded you with protection once again. There was a look of relief on your face as you recognised them. Those that had helped you fly before, they could do it again. But they knew it was different this time. The magpies had pecked so much more with such ferociousness. We could see it in their eyes, and so could you. They called on other songbirds, they squeaked and squawked and sang to be heard, and that's when we knew things were bad. So bad, they needed you belly down. Belly down, Dad. You knew what this meant. Just like those milk bottles, no plastic caps for you. You waited patiently. Another 13 hours, gasping for every breath, just to be granted entry to the sacred nest, the nest that the magpies were guarding. When the songbird called us in, they warned us before we slowly entered. Not many were allowed in, so that fact alone meant things were bad. When I saw you, I knew. I looked at your wings, still so strong. I wondered, how did we let these magpies do this? Then I saw your breath. Told you, don't squeak or squawk. Save that for later, Dad. Save it for when you can fly again. We talked about when we'd be flying you out of there, back to your own nest, surrounded by your chicklings, and you smiled. You had so much to look forward to live for. Let them do what they need to do. They can beat me up if they have to. We laughed with those familiar songbirds. The songbirds you thanked, you praised, you defended. They were tired and weary now too. They knew they could do no more in their nest, and you had to be moved to another. A stronger one, to be tended to. They waited, and they fluttered, defying those magpies as best they could, whenever they could, just to grant you entry to that special sacred nest. Suddenly we were surrounded by a chaotic flapping of wings as we were descended on by more songbirds. We allowed ourselves to be pushed to the side so they could fly. We didn't hear the whispered tweets of what went on, but we trusted they would mend your broken wings. It happened in a blur, and as they took flight, you sang your parting words, "Hasta pronto!" Because you didn't want it to be goodbye. The sky fell silent. There wasn't a flutter of a wing to be heard. We took comfort in that. You were nestled amongst the greatest of all songbirds. The magpies carried on. Peck. 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 Magpies don't relent. They show no compassion. Some describe them as curious, but this was more than curiosity, and we knew it. We continued to squeak, to squawk and fly to and fro on a regular basis, begging those clever songbirds to help you fly. We cried, we sobbed, but we knew there was always hope. The songbirds would relay those messages of hope, and then another magpie would interrupt, squashing any feelings of positivity. Then we were told we should come to the sacred nest. We put on our protective armour and we flew in to be by your side. There was still hope. We looked around at the many other robins. Some belly down, some not. There's always hope. The second time we visited, we knew your wings had been clipped. The magpies had made sure of that. I looked around at the poor songbirds. They were tending to you. I could see their wings now were also damaged. The magpies had hurt them too, not physically like you, but mentally they were hurting. And that final day when we saw you, and we were allowed entry to the sacred nest, I promised myself I would never trust in a magpie again. I watched as you flew away. never to return. So many had tried to keep you here with us in your own nest. We even sat and cried with one of the tired and weary songbirds who had tried to keep you safe. It wasn't your time to fly. Like so many others, it was not your time. We've learnt now that there are many a magpie among us. Those that quietly live inside of some and those that are proud to stand up boldly and surround us. I will never forgive those magpies for what they've done. To you and to so many more. I just hope that where you are, Dad, you've flown to a place where you still no longer hear the peck, peck, peck of a magpie, and you can fly like the unique robin you are. The sky will never be the same. It now feels never-ending. Silent. We can only hope that where you are, there are no more magpies. No more peck, peck, peck. Where you are, we hope that the songbirds can truly sing.